Education, like many of the structures that make our lives, is about transformative change in our way of thinking, our ways of being, and the kind of impact that we want to make. The process is one that starts in our early childhood education up until the highest level we can reach as individuals. Engaging in transformative change at all levels requires critical reflection by educators, and particularly those in the business of offering education facilities such as schools and the development of curricula, as they help children rethink their worldviews and how they can make the world a better place in future, especially economically. Take, for example, the Dow Academy, who pride themselves in reimagining the skills that their students should leave the school with when they are of age, as dictated by the demands of today's world. But exactly who are they, and what sets them apart from the rest of the basic education private schools in Botswana by Botswana? Chesha Dow, CEO at the Dow Academy, is on First Issues.
Really what the Dow Academy is about is really innovating and creating a model that allows our kids to not only pursue an academic program, but to have a rigorous technological and life skills program alongside the ordinary educational curriculum. Academics, in terms of delivering academic program, teaching kids to read, write, count, this is long settled as to how to approach that. But what is missing in basic education really is to say, okay, fine, people do need to read, write, and count, but kids have so much more to offer the world and therefore need a time to actually explore these skills and to be nurtured to develop them. So we thought, okay, fine, if academics is sorted, then what can we do to basic education? And that's why we introduced what we call the TDA Tech Series. And that program really it's gotten quite big actually in the 19 months. We started last year with 4 programs and now up to 13. And the programs run from teaching kids coding, rebuilding desktops, media film design, mechanics, leadership, career development, because really we see the child as a whole person, not just somebody who's going to be measured by a grade at the end of 13 years of education. What we saw was a gap where children, even though they may be A students or B students or even C students, they actually have so much more to offer the world that has not been nurtured and supported. And specifically even just soft skills like confidence, like how to show up, like how to be in the world, how to put your hand up, these are critical things that hold a lot of our kids back. You can have kids in a classroom, you ask them a question, you ask them what their talents are, and they keep quiet. And that, I think, is something that we, as an educational institution, as parents, as people who nurture and raise kids, should really encourage them to come into themselves. And so we believe that apart from the certificate they'll get, IGCSE, they'll also be able, when they compete with their peers going into university, they'll be able to offer something more. Like, for instance, we just had 7 of our former Form 5 students in an internship program at our TDA teleradio station. So for 8 months, 7 to 8 months, they put together a studio, they learned how to run media equipment, much like this one. They learned how to present shows, how to do research. And now when they go to school, they're starting, we believe, a step ahead of the other kids who would have just come out of a regular academic program.
There are so many other private institutions here in Botswana that were started by Botswana. So what would you say is that one special thing that sets the Dow Academy apart?
We want kids to learn skills. So then we create a radio station. We want kids, and the kids actually co-host, some of the Standard 7 kids co-host a show, actually live on the radio every day. It's all very exciting. I mean, we want our kids to learn how to make film. Not even so much that we're not saying they're going to be movie stars or want to actually go into film production, but we want them to say they can be in the world and they can influence it. So we create all these special experiences for kids to find out really the breadth and depth of who they are. And as somebody who came from an education that really promotes, lateral or really multidisciplinary approach to problem solving, we believe that we need to expose kids to as many disciplines and work professions as possible so that when they solve whatever problems may come, they're actually using a variety of lenses. I mean, as we know, the future is very uncertain. Yeah. And the jobs that we have traditionally valued and thought people should become doctors or accountants or whatever, those jobs are more and more being done by artificial intelligence. I mean, so while we don't know what jobs will exist in the future, what we do know is we will need certain skills to actually participate, whatever those jobs are. And it needs to be skills that are not machine possible. So for instance, creativity, ingenuity, problem solving, courage, these are things that only people can do. And that's what we are really inculcating into our kids.
We live in a world that is very demanding of the kind of caliber that it requires of us, right? So what is it that the school is doing to offer that prerequisite to its students?
the reality is that we come from a small country. There's just over 2 million of us, right? We don't have any military might. We don't have any industrial might, to be fair. We do have diamonds, which is great. But in terms of what we are able to offer the world, we have to be very clear on what that is. And it has to be our creativity and ingenuity. And I think what has been missing in our basic education experience for a lot of people is to be told that we are brilliant and to actually dare to believe it. Botswana, I went to school abroad for university, and what I was always shocked about was the level of confidence and just go get an attitude that other African, students had. And I really looked back on my education and said, okay, why did I thought I had a good education, but why is it failing me when I'm now out in the world? And I really think a big part of it is really kind of owning our story as Botswana and as Botswana, and actually thinking that it has value and it has might. And I think given how this country began, we are actually doing a disservice to our history. We had leaders who dared to create a country, who dared to create a diamond industry coming out of almost nothing in 1966. But somewhere along the way, I think we've floundered and lost that courage. So for us, we think, aside from the technological skills we're missing for basic education, and really the realization that those things have value, and that children, even if they are C students in academics, it does not mean they have nothing to offer. And therefore, we must provide something that allows them to be able to participate in the economy. But aside from that, I think somewhere along the way, we lost our courage. We really have lost our courage, and it's a terrible thing to see. So we would like kids whom in a room of 1 million people, if a question is asked, they are not afraid to put up their hand first. But really, ultimately, what we would like to see is it being commonplace and just understood that basic education equals a liberal arts approach, which means that even if you are an excellent math student or science student, you're not exempt from taking dance or music or sports, because you are more than just that letter A that comes, or B or C that comes at the end. So for us, we are looking to create a program and an experience for kids that says, if you're an athlete, there will be a time for you to shine. If you are a dancer, there will be a time. And in this space, not later as an afterthought, as an afternoon activity, but we should be able to have a program where your first class can be computer coding, whether or not you're actually going to be a coder. Because what we want to teach you is that there are different ways to look at the world, to look at the problems, and you need to learn different ways to think. So really what we are looking to create here is an institution that, above all else, teaches kids to think, and therefore to tackle whatever problems may be, and not to feel small in the face of new information that they've never seen before.